Dr. Rebecca Torres had spent 15 years as chief curator at the Boston Museum of Photography, but she had never seen anything like the collection that arrived on that cold March morning. The estate sale of the Whitmore Photography Studio had produced over 3,000 glass plate negatives and original prints from the 1880s. Rebecca stood in the climate-controlled archive room, carefully taking photographs from acid-free boxes. Most were ordinary Victorian portraits of stiff families, serious businessmen, and young couples. Then she lifted one photograph that made her stop. It showed a family of 4 inside the Whitmore studio, easy to recognize by the painted garden backdrop. The photo was dated April 1889 on the back with the note, "The Family." A man and woman sat in chairs. Between them stood a boy of about 12 or 13, and on the woman's lap sat a girl of about 5. Something felt wrong. Rebecca took it to her desk, turned on the strong lamp, and used her magnifying glass. The child's eyes were open but glassy and unfocused. The other family members showed slight blur from movement, but the girl was completely still. The mother's hands held her upright. The child's hands lay limp. Around the girl's throat, partly hidden by her dress collar, were faint pressure marks. Under the digital microscope, the marks looked like finger impressions, and a dark discoloration spread from under the fabric. Rebecca's heart raced. She had curated an exhibition on Victorian mourning photography. Post-mortem photos were common then, especially of children. Families posed with the dead to make them look alive. But this child's eyes were truly open, yet she was clearly dead. The marks on her neck suggested something worse than illness. Rebecca spent the day studying every detail. The next morning, she searched the studio's leather-bound ledgers from 1885 to 1902. In the 1889 ledger, she found an entry for April 14th. Special sitting, family portrait, private session, paid in advance, $25. No name. The price was more than 3 times the usual cost. A later note in different ink said, "Negatives retained, do not destroy." The studio normally destroyed old negatives after 5 years. Rebecca photographed the page. Research into the studio showed Jonathan Whitmore had founded it in 1883. His personal journals told a darker story. In 1890, he wrote that some images haunted him, and that he wondered about his duty when he suspected wrongdoing. In 1891, he wrote that he had seen suspicious deaths and marks that suggested violence, yet he was only a photographer. In 1893, he decided to keep certain troubling negatives separate, hoping someone would one day understand what he suspected. Rebecca realized she held evidence Whitmore had deliberately preserved. She contacted Dr. Michael Chen, a forensic anthropologist. After careful study, he confirmed the child was dead when the photo was taken. The marks matched manual strangulation by an adult's fingers. Petechial hemorrhaging in the eyes supported asphyxiation. It was homicide. Detective Sarah Martinez of the Boston Cold Case Unit opened an investigation. Her team searched records and found a short article from April 16, 1889, reporting the death of Emily Thornton, age 5, daughter of Walter and Clara Thornton. Cause of death was listed as croup. She was buried quickly at Mount Auburn Cemetery and survived by her parents and brother Daniel, age 13. Further checks showed earlier hospital visits for a broken arm and severe bruising with explanations the doctors doubted. In May 1890, Clara had been briefly held after screaming outside a church that she needed to confess. The breakthrough came when Sarah found that Daniel Thornton had written an unpublished memoir in 1948. In it, he described his mother's violent rages and his father's weak silence. On the night of April 13, 1889, he found his mother with her hands around Emily's throat. By the time he pulled her away, the little girl was not breathing. His father decided they would say Emily died of croup, paid a doctor to sign the certificate without examining the body, and insisted on a family photograph with Emily before burial. Daniel had to sit beside the mother who had just killed his sister. Clara was later sent to the Boston Lunatic Hospital, where the doctor recorded her repeated confessions of squeezing the life out of her daughter. The husband claimed she was delusional and refused any investigation. Sarah compiled a full report. The death certificate was amended to show death by asphyxiation, homicide. Michael published a forensic analysis. Rebecca created a museum exhibition called Silent Witnesses, Photography, and Justice that told Emily's full story. 6 months later, a small group including living descendants stood at Mount Auburn Cemetery before a new headstone that read, "Emily Thornton, child and victim, 1884 to 1889. Her voice was silenced, but her story is finally heard. Daniel's granddaughter, Patricia, said her grandfather had carried the burden all his life and had wanted the truth known. The photograph now hung openly in the museum. Visitors stood before it in silence. Rebecca touched the frame and whispered, "Rest in peace, Emily. Your story matters. You matter, and now everyone knows." Outside, the October sun set over the city. Inside, the photograph remained a reminder that truth can still come to light, and that justice and remembrance remain possible even after more than a century.